Hi, I'm Kirsten Townander. I'm a second-year master's student studying composition here.
Well, welcome to the podcast. We're so happy to have you. Thank you so much for sitting down. And we're really excited because your new work, Bicycle Face, is getting its world premiere this Monday night with the new music ensemble right here at the Butler School of Music. And this is just such a unique piece from many different perspectives. But I wanted to kind of jump into it and the very first page of your score, you start out with a quote. And I thought this quote really kind of set the tone for the whole piece. And I want you to kind of elaborate on it. The quote is, "To men, the bicycle in the beginning was merely a new toy, another machine added to the long list of devices they knew in their work and play. To women, it was a steed upon which they rode into the new world." So can you talk a little bit about that early era of the bicycle and what it meant for women?
Yeah, that's totally it. I think that's what really struck me as I went down these rabbit holes researching this time period and the role of the bicycle around like the women's suffrage movement in the US and the bicycle boom, which was the 1890s-ish. And yeah, you're exactly right. We don't really think of it that way anymore. Everyone's riding bikes of all genders and ages. It's just such a common activity, like we don't give it a second thought. But yeah, at this time it was kind of revolutionary for women to ride bikes for multiple reasons. And yeah, that really struck me. I thought it was really interesting and I thought it deserved a little bit of a platform. I think for women, it provided this newfound autonomy that they hadn't accessed previously. Around this time, it was just very common to be, accompanied by your husband, or it was just, there were no means to get by really by yourself frequently. And so the bicycle provided this independence that they hadn't experienced before, and it allowed them to meet with each other with just the girls. They could organize politically, which is how this wound up influencing the suffrage movement. And apart from any social reasons, like reasons of social progress, it also just was, I think, liberating in itself, because we all know that feeling of riding a bike. You get to the top of a hill and then you're coasting down and it just feels so freeing. So even just that in itself, I think, was really an empowering feeling.
It was so interesting. You put in the program notes here, talking a little bit about, that women, it wasn't just in their mind. There was actually a lot of backlash against women riding bicycles at all. There was you talk about, there was an article that said, are there any pretty women that ride bicycles? And then there was the list of don'ts for women bicycle riders, and even the title of your piece, right? Bicycle Face. This comes from like kind of a medical condition, right? That was thought of back then. Can you talk a little bit about it?
I didn't coin the term. I did use it as the title because I just knew that it was so ear-catching, Bicycle Face. That's such a strange title, and that's why I liked it. Yeah, you're right. It was this made-up medical condition fabricated by doctors in Victorian England, and they, I think, were trying to use it as a scare tactic to get people. They said everybody, but it was very pointed at women. They were trying to scare them away from biking. They were saying, "Oh, your face is gonna get locked into this position of concentration and focus," and essentially saying, like, this is too hard for you, like you're too frail for this activity. They were concerned about, it being they're overexerting themselves and they're tainting their beauty, because that was much more important, was to be beautiful. And that related to looking at like fashion standards of the time, where they had to wear skirts, and that sparked all kinds of other things, like wearing bloomers and all these things that we wouldn't think of as revolutionary today, but at the time were very, very revolutionary.
Yeah, because they couldn't wear the big Victorian dress on the bicycle.
Quite impractical.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. You might
Not
get caught
ideal.
in the chain.
Uh-huh, yeah.
So obviously we're just a couple days away from this world premiere, but where did this piece start from? Where did the whole creative process begin?
When I moved to Austin last year, I was doing a lot of biking. So I bike to campus every day. And so I do a lot of pedaling. It's a good time to
With your
think.
bicycle face?
With my bicycle face on, yes, of course. Concentrated, clenched jaw, and all the things, they would hate me. Victorian England doctors. Yeah, but I think that was kind of a time of, it was almost meditative for me, and is every day. I bike. Sometimes I listen to music. Sometimes it's quiet. It's just me and the thoughts. And last year, when I started my master's, I think I was trying to find direction and figure out what kind of music do I want to write while I'm here. And this was also during the time of the election last year. There was just a lot. There was a lot going on, to say the least. And it was kind of, this piece is the brainchild of all these different influences. And so the political landscape, I would say, and just issues that are close to my heart. Biking itself was an inspiration, and I really am interested in exploring found percussion. So I wanted to try and find a way to put a bike into a piece to just explore what could happen there. And then I also grew up doing theater and things across the disciplines. So I was always that kid who was like, I'm not quite a band kid. I'm not quite a theater kid. I was just doing everything. And so I think this piece is my experiment to see how I can merge those worlds that are often very siloed.
So when the New Music Ensemble accepted the piece, how well established were the sketches? Was there already a bicycle on stage, or was that later?
Yeah, I knew I wanted to have a bike on the stage, so that was there from the start. But I think the storyline of it hadn't fully developed yet. And it was really over the summer that I went down those rabbit holes researching the time and finding all of this media content, like the article you mentioned with, is it possible there's no pretty women riders, and thrashed by a lady cyclist, and this list of don'ts for women riders, all these crazy things that I found. And those were what ended up shaping it into what it is now, with having actors who are speaking that text, and it has a more explicit programmatic meaning now.
Yeah, great. So, and so this piece is just so cool. How did you decide to have actors?
How did I decide to have actors? That's a good question. I think as I dug deeper into the story and developed those ideas and read from these sources from the 1910s, 1920s, I realized that this story was larger than life. And I think it was a matter of deciding what would serve the piece the best. And I think it was begging for theater. So I felt like I really wanted to incorporate the actual text from some of these sources. And I considered just having, a narrator standing on the side, but it just felt like it wasn't going to fully emulate the ridiculousness of this story. And I just thought it would be more impactful, I think, to convey the meaning behind the piece if I had actors who are physically acting out the story. And I think it's also more personal to see. It's essentially like a case study where we have the woman who is enacting one woman's lived experience in this time, what I would imagine to be that. So I think I felt it would be more effective to show it in that way rather than just having just plain music with no words. Yeah.
And there's a bicycle on the stage.
There is a bicycle on the stage.
And the bicycle, obviously you can't have people riding a bicycle on stage, right? Because that would be dangerous.
It would be a little hard to manage in bass.
Did you ever think that maybe someone should ride it on stage, or was that instantly no, too dangerous?
It crossed my mind. Okay. It would be cool in a perfect world, but I think maybe not in Bates.
Yeah. It's already a small stage. Yeah. So instead of learning to ride the bicycle, right, the actors learn to play the bicycle. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's kind of like this metaphor for learning. Do they get better at playing the bicycle as the piece goes on?
Yeah. That's a good question. They do. So in the piece, we have our two percussionists who they are representing loosely bike mechanics, these bike experts who are just kind of tinkering on the bike. We hear it in the beginning of the piece during this bicycle advertisement section. So they're kind of showing, hey, this is what the bike can do, and helping celebrate what it is. And during these lessons where the woman is learning to ride the bike via learning to play the bike, they demonstrate for her over time little rhythms, and she improves over time. She tries to imitate them and she messes up, and there's 3 different lessons, and each time she gets better and better, and by the end she's able to play that whole rhythm back to them. And in my mind, this was my way of musically representing she has learned to ride the bike, and it took her some time and it took some help from other people, but she perseveres even though it's frustrating, and then it's a very joyful celebration that they experience together afterwards.
Cool. Like that feeling of actually riding the bike.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Exactly.
And I think in this, you mentioned there was like a safety bicycle.
Mm-hmm.
Was that so? What is a safety bicycle?
Yeah, a safety bicycle. I didn't know this term until I did research about this piece, but that was just the term for the bicycle as we know it today, the model we have. So previously they had it's called a penny farthing bicycle. So those bikes that have a huge front wheel and a tiny back wheel from like the 1800s, and they were super difficult to ride. They were really dangerous, as you can imagine. So that's actually the reason for the bicycle boom of the 1890s. The bike could suddenly become commercially available on a much larger scale because it was safer. So hence safety bicycle.
Yeah. I can imagine falling off of one of those. What was it called? Feather?
Penny farthing.
Penny farther. Yeah. Oh. Yeah. So So do the actors actually play the bicycle? Is it the percussionists?
It's both. Yeah. So the percussionists are the main players, but we see that transferred over to the actress who, as we were saying, that is her way of learning to ride the bike. So it's shared throughout the piece. At first, it's just the percussionists, and then it transfers over as she is taught by them to play the bike.
Is that a lot to ask an actor to perform? Or did you write it so it'd be like almost any actor could do it, or how did you do that?
I love that question because I had that in mind. Yeah. I know that a lot of actors are musicians, but a lot of actors have never, maybe read notated music or had to play percussion. And I think as someone who has experience doing theater, and also I teach, so I think I have like the teacher brain kind of perspective going into this, where I'm like, okay, what's the easiest way I can scaffold this essentially? So the way it's written, is we have these rhythms. There's two parts to this rhythm, and each time they're learning a new one, and it's notated where the percussionist reads it, and then in the actress part it says, try to play this rhythm, but mess it up.
Okay.
And then the third time she plays it correctly. And it's been really fun working with her to help her feel comfortable playing it, and she's doing great. And the percussionists have also been really excited, I think, about the way they get to interact with her, and it's been really fun to see this collaboration because actors don't always get to be percussionists don't always get to be actors, and so it's been really fun to see that happen.
Yeah, especially percussionists. They never get the chance to be actors, right? This is like a once in a lifetime. Yeah. So there's a bike on stage.
Yeah.
Whose bike is that? Is that your bike that you like rode to school thinking about this piece?
I did ride it to school to get it from point A to point B being Bates Recital Hall. But it's actually one of my roommates' bikes. I live in a house with like 6 people. So shout out to them for letting me borrow. I came home one day and I said, okay, I need a bike that looks like it's from early 1900s, and I noticed that my roommate had a kind of retro looking cruiser bike. So it might not be completely 100% historically accurate, but it looks more of the times than my bike, which is more modern looking.
Yeah. And now, so this is going to be performed by like, a top university, but like for other people who might want to perform this, could this be done by like a high school ensemble or community college? What do you think that kind of skill level is for a conductor who's thinking about performing this piece?
Yeah, I'm glad you asked that because I actually think that is important to me when I write music, is to make it as accessible as I can. And that's not to say I don't want to write difficult music ever, but I do really like the idea of it being open to different skill levels. So I do think that this piece is very attainable by a high school group. If you're just wanting to do something interdisciplinary, I think it could be a really good opportunity for the students to explore that. It's a huge honor to be working with such a high caliber, highly, renowned ensemble at this school. So I think I feel very lucky to have this be the premiere where I get the chance to experiment with it. And I'm hoping that, it could be definitely attained by groups of different levels, not just, advanced collegiate players who have been playing for forever. I think high schoolers could definitely tackle this piece too. Yeah.
What was it like the first time you were actually like sitting in a rehearsal, listening to them work out this piece? Was it like, oh my gosh, this is amazing? Or was it like, oh no, they're messing this up and this up. What was it like? Because there's a lot of stuff that like a music ensemble might not have ever dealt with, right? Like playing a bicycle, working with actors.
Right. Lots of moving parts. Yeah.
Yeah.
I was super impressed. That group is amazing. Mark is wonderful to work with. I was really impressed. I think it's such a weird experience as a composer when you sit and listen to your MIDI file so many times, where you get used to hearing your computer make music, and then finally you get to hear it by live performers. And yeah, sometimes that can be, I guess, disappointing if you've chalked up some sound in your head that isn't what it can realistically be. But with this piece, no, I was totally, I was really blown away by their approach to it and just their willingness, I think, to buy into it, because I do ask them to do a couple of things that are arguably out of a musician's comfort zone, like yelling. They yell the word "don't" multiple times.
Yes.
So I think areas like that, they maybe were not so used to, but the other aspects of the music, I think, are they were pretty easy to read down, and they get to do other things too, like ring bicycle bells at some point. So I think it was cool for me to see how much fun they were having. At least that's how I perceived it. Seeing people smile, seeing members of the ensemble laughing when the actors got involved, and so just getting everyone together to create this project. I was feeling really encouraged after that first rehearsal, seeing like, okay, it's going to come together. This is a real thing that isn't just this hypothetical piece concept in my head. It was all the pieces coming together. It was really exciting.
Yeah, and you picked a perfect ensemble to start. It's because Mark is just great, and he's willing to go anywhere, right? There's no
he
boundaries,
really
which he'll say, I will not do that. Like, sure, a bicycle, sure, actors, right? It's just so wonderful.
Mm-hmm.
So now when people talk about pieces, like especially people who don't know much about classical music, they always say, well, like, what's the story? And a lot of times there's just no story, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's just a cool piece. But there's a story, right? So talk a little bit about the story that kind of unfolds in this piece of music.
When it opens, we aren't sure what to expect. We have one of our two actors who is portraying kind of this more neutral narrator figure storyteller who is kind of inviting us to indulge in this story. And so that quote that we looked at earlier from the first page of the score is read aloud. And I think I chose that because it's a perfect way to kind of get people into that era and give them an idea of what the piece will be about in just 2 sentences. And so, yeah, we have this storyteller figure, and then we have our woman who is like I said, kind of the example of the quintessential just woman of the time who was excited to learn new things and be daring and be a part of a movement of women who are changing the story, right? So throughout the piece, the general trajectory is that we have this woman who discovers the bicycle. She hears about it in these very exciting raving reviews that are delivered through radio broadcasted advertisements, which are read by the other actor. And then after she learns about it, she eventually musters up the courage to physically go over to the bike, and that is representing her finally trying to access the bike. She says, okay, I think this could be for me too. And as soon as she reaches it, we have this huge shift where suddenly, hopefully unexpectedly to the audience, we experience the pushback. And that's exactly what bicycle face was about, that medical condition. And so it wasn't just bicycle face, it was all these other impositions as well that I read about through things like that list of don'ts for women riders. And we have that exact list is read through where our other actor, just shouts all these things at her, like, don't do this, don't do that. And she's like, what? She's really taken aback because she was hearing all about the bike and hearing how great it is. And now she's discovering that it's apparently not for her. And after some time, she eventually decides, you know what? I actually think this is a little bit crazy and I'm going to do it anyways. And so she's really determined, and she, throughout the rest of the piece, goes through a process of learning to ride the bike. And after she does, she, in the end, she reflects upon her experience. And I took that monologue is actually a quote from a book written by one of the famous women suffragists. And the book is called How I Learned to Ride the Bicycle. So I just thought that was perfect. And then following this kind of heartfelt reflection are sounds of bicycle bells being rung throughout the ensemble, which I am kind of using as a symbol to represent that liberation and just joy that the bike has provided for women. Because in the beginning, it was only rung by the percussionists, and over time, she eventually rings it herself, and that's a really big moment for her. And in the end, when we see the ensemble ringing the bells, it's kind of representing the spread of biking and just the influence that she was able to have.
Yeah. So like it ends on a very positive piece, right? And I think like the absolute final note you have, which is so cool, is so one of the actors writes, "Look out and up and into the future." Right? It's like this kind of very positive thing. Do you think the story ends well in real life? Do you think the bicycle was this positive thing that brought about change?
That's a good question. Yes and no. The bicycle was a positive thing that certainly brought about change because, looking back at history, we did pass the right for women to vote. And that was influential, but I think now is a time where we're seeing, a lot of issues are still around. And so we have made a lot of progress since this time, which the bike was a part of, but it's been about 100 years-ish since that happened, since we passed that amendment. And we still have a lot of work to do. So I think I very intentionally wrote about this topic right now, and I found it as my way of, as an artist, commenting on, a very pressing social issue without directly saying things, politically speaking. I think it's quite explicit, but I found that this was my way of getting through to people in the way that speaks to me, where I'm able to incorporate humor and storytelling in a very just playful way that I think is able to kind of bring people together to view an issue that is this serious from just a more universal lens, where they're able to kind of maybe look past things that divide us, political divisions, all of the things that are getting between us, and just kind of look at it together from a new perspective through, I think that's what storytelling can do. I think that's very powerful. And so that's something that I tried to do in this work.
All right. So I know when you're doing this, you wrote this a while ago, right? And it's probably been edited and edited and edited. So now you're working on your next thing. So what are you working on now?
Yeah, it's exciting. I'm now in the kind of mid-sketching and composing phase of a new project that a friend of mine up at UW-Madison in Wisconsin asked me to write. It's going to be a concerto for 2 trumpets and chamber winds and percussion. So that'll be a really fun project. She's getting her master's up there, and so it's kind of fun to collaborate with another student in another school. So that's what I'm kind of in the weeds with right now.
Is it like a full-on 35 minutes concerto?
It'll be about 20 minutes.
Okay.
Yeah. That's super exciting. I'm really excited to be working on that project. And I guess smaller things. I'm taking a film scoring class right now, so that's been really fun to kind of dabble in that realm. Yeah.
Sam Littman. Yeah.
That's been super fun. And then I am trying to next semester get into more cross-discipline projects. So my friend Kinea, who is the staging director who's been helping with this piece, we're taking a class together about theater for the young. And so I'm excited to kind of delve into that area and work with people across departments.
Nice. And you mentioned you teach, right? Do you teach composition, or what do you teach?
I haven't taught composition yet. I would love to. But I got my undergrad. I was primarily studying music education up in Illinois. Roll birds. But I teach music theory at an after-school program. So mostly little kids. I teach kids between 7 and 16 mostly. But I teach private flute lessons.
Oh, nice.
And that's all I'm teaching right now. But I love teaching.
That's a lot. Yeah. That's great. Yeah. That's great. And so what do you want to do? So you're doing a master's degree, right? So is this your last year, or is next year your last year? It is.
Somehow. I don't know how we got here.
So where are you going to be a year from now?
That is the golden question. I wish I could tell you more specifically, but the plan is exactly, I guess, what I'm doing now, just minus the student label. So I'll be teaching part-time. I'll be hopefully writing I'll be working on whatever projects I can get involved with, and just kind of being a person. I graduated from my undergrad and came straight to my master's. So I think I'm excited to just be in the world for a little bit. I'm not sure if I'll eventually maybe try for a DMA or if I'll become a full-time teacher, full-time composer. I'm kind of existing in between these realms, and right now I think it's where I need to be. So.
Awesome. Yeah. So Monday, 7:30 p.m. world premiere of
Woo.
Bicycle Face, right? You're going to be there. Your parents are coming into town.
They're coming to town.
How exciting is that?
Deb.
They're leaving the cold weather.
Yep.
And right now the weather's like gorgeous here in Austin.
Gorgeous.
So they're going to have a good time.
Yes. Super exciting.
So so we can't wait to hear it. So we'll see it Monday. And so Monday, 7:30 at Bates. Mm-hmm. I think it's a free concert.
It's free.
It's free, so there's no reason not to come. So, well, thank you so much for sitting down. I really appreciate this.
Thank you so much for having me. It's an honor. This has been fun.